恭敬大德圣听，为此法会集一切众生，亲证妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，殊证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputoche. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受者，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Amitabha, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good-knowing advisors, welcome back to our exploration of the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. This is class number 71. And let's begin by reciting Medicine Master Buddha's name 7 times. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Okay, let me change it to today's slides. In the meantime, if anyone has any questions, you can unmute your microphone or you can type it into the chat box. Oh, wrong slide. Oh, hold on. Okay, there you go. Hey, hold on. Hitting all the wrong buttons today. Okay, there you go. All right. So where are we this week? If you look on your screen, we are at number 6 to 11. That's the realm that we are in, right? No, actually, no, not yet. We are at 2 to 5. We are still at the realm of animals. If you look on the right-hand side of your screen, you see animals, hungry ghosts, asuras, and humans. We are still at the realm of animals. The last class 2 weeks ago, we went through giant snakes or Maha. And today we are going to the next level of animals called Garudas or the great golden wing peng bird. Okay, let's just go through that. Okay, so there's another class of living beings that are giant birds that are called Garudas, and also known as the great golden wing peng bird. Garuda is if you all have flown the Indonesia's national airline, they have the Garuda as their logo is based on the Garuda bird, and they also Garuda is also the name of the bird that they use in the Indonesian language. Okay, so sometimes you see them referred to as Supanas. Mostly in the Pali Canon, they are referred to as Supanas, and they are giant birds, huge birds, and it is said that they live halfway up the slopes of Mount Sumeru in a grove of Symbolic trees. And then in Buddhist art, if you ever see a carving or a painting of body of a man, but with the head of and wings of an eagle, that would signify a Garuda. Okay. And hold on. Okay. And they are part of the Eightfold Division of what's known as ghosts and spirits. They are the Devas, the Asuras, the Gandharvas, the Kinnaras, the Nagas, Yakshas, Garudas, and Mahoragas. So we went through the Mahoraga last week. Today we are looking at the Garudas, and if we have time, then we will move to the Nagas. Nagas are dragons, and for both Garudas and the Nagas, we have a lot of great stories today to share. Okay. So they live in a grove of Symbolic trees. What are Symbolic trees? Apparently, Symbolic is a silk cotton tree. They have flowers, and then they have seed pods that resemble silk cotton. Okay, so that's the Symbolic tree. So how large are these? Well, their wingspan is 330 yojanas. Okay, so tip to tip is about 330 yojanas. How wide is a yojana? I think it's 26 miles. So it's 26 times 330. The number of miles is the wingspan of the Garuda bird. And then depending on who you ask or the text that you refer to, they say that the Garuda bird has a wish-fulfilling pearl or talisman around its neck. Okay, that's what it says. But Shufu has something a lot more interesting, and we'll cover that towards the end of our lecture. So remember about the Garuda and the wish-fulfilling pearl when we get back to that in a few slides time. Okay, so they're so huge, all right? The Garuda bird is so big that their wings generate a very strong wind that is capable of splitting the ocean. You can separate the ocean and uprooting banyan trees. Banyan trees are huge trees. Their roots go very deep in the ground, so they signify strength. But the wind generated by the Garuda bird can still uproot these trees. And the ability to split the ocean apart is another important point, because that's how they get their food, or used to get their food. And then it's also said that their wings are adorned with marvelous gems, and they have a huge gullet that allows it to slowly digest enormous amounts of food. Okay, so that's the Garuda. What else do we have about the Garuda? The Garuda were once mortal enemies of dragons and snakes, the Maharagas, and that's very interesting because for example, at the city of 10,000 Buddhas, we have a lot of peacocks, and the peacocks have they look at snakes as their natural enemy. I've seen before the peacocks attacking a snake, and there was once when I'm not sure who was involved, but we had back when I was a layperson, we had a rubber snake, and the peacock showed great interest in attacking that rubber snake. Yeah, so Shufu has something to say about that, about how birds and snakes are natural enemies. So what do Garudas eat? They eat only flesh and are the enemies of nagas or dragons, which are their main food. Okay, this was in the past, but things have changed. I will come to that. So Garudas are subject to all four modes of rebirth. What are the four modes of rebirth? We'll come to that. Maybe let me go to that first. Okay, then this current slide will make more sense. Okay, in this there's a sutta called the Samyutta Nikaya. It's a collection of teachings by the Buddha, and number 392, the Buddha explains that Garudas or Supanas are born 4 ways. So they're born from eggs, they're born from the womb, they're born from moisture, and some of them are also born spontaneously, like how the gods in the heavens are born spontaneously. And in terms of what you call which form of birth is better, eggs, being born from an egg is seen as the lowest form of rebirth. That means if your karma is at the lowest level, you get born from an egg. Then if your karma is slightly better, you get born from the womb, and then better still is born from moisture, and the best is being born of having a spontaneous birth. Okay, let me go back to our previous slide. So when it comes to the food of the Garudas, they have an order, and the dragons that they can eat for their food depends on the type of birth they are born, as well as the type of birth the dragon is born. Dragons are also born through these 4 similar ways as the Garudas. So if you are a Garuda and you are born from an egg, okay, you are egg-born Garuda, you can only eat dragons that are also egg-born. You can't eat a dragon that has been born through a more superior form of birth. So it says a spontaneously born Garuda will eat any kind of dragon or naga. Why? Because spontaneously born Garuda is the highest, not highest, the most superior form of birth. So meaning you can eat any dragon you want. But if you're a moisture-born Garuda, you can only eat a moisture-born naga and womb-born naga dragon and an egg-born dragon. But you can't eat a spontaneously born dragon, because that's a higher form of rebirth than yourself, because you're only moisture-born. Okay, so that's how it works. You don't have to get into all the details. You don't have to remember this, but it's just an interesting thing for us to know. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, this is the in this particular sutra, SN393, it is just the same thing that we just I kind of duplicated the information. So it's just the Buddha explaining the same information that we just read about. So there's another collection of sutras in this. This whole collection of sutras is all about the Garudas. So a monk once asked the Buddha, I said, Lord Buddha or Venerable Sir, what is the cause and reason why someone here with the breakup of the body after death is reborn in the company of egg-born Supanas? So it says, what would make someone be reborn as a egg-born Garuda? Okay, so the Buddha explains. It says someone acts ambivalently in body, speech, and mind. I think ambivalently, if I'm not wrong, is carelessly. Let me hold on. Let me look it up. Oh, where's my? Okay. Ambivalently. Okay. Officially, it says involves being uncertain about your feelings. Yeah, that means you are not quite sure. Yeah. Both careless and capable. Oh no, says the. Yeah, you're not quite sure. You are of two minds. Okay, of two minds. So the Buddha says here, Bhikshu, if someone acts in two minds with body, speech, and mind, that means you're not firm in your resolve, and has heard egg-born Supanas are long-lived, beautiful, and abound in happiness. He thinks, oh, with the breakup of the body after death, may I be reborn in a company of egg-born Supanas. Then with the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in a company of egg-born Supanas. This bhikshus is the cause and reason why someone here with the breakup of the body after death is reborn in a company of egg-born Supanas. Basically, in your mind, it's someone in their mind have had a thought. Okay, it's not a thinking all the time, but they happen to have a thought. Oh, maybe it's not so bad to be born as a Garuda because they are beautiful, they have a long life, they have happiness, and maybe this person wants to eat dragons as well. And guess what happens? If your conditions are right, you get reborn as one. Yeah. So Shufu has quite a bit to say about dragons. About Garudas. And this is a talk that Shufu gave on June 6, 1982 at CDTB when Shufu was lecturing on the Lotus Sutra. So Shufu says the Garudas are great golden wing peng birds, and what do they eat for food? It feeds exclusively on dragons. They eat dragons in the same way that we eat noodles. So Shufu says the wings spread of this bird is 360 yojanas. And with one flap of his wings, he can grab the waters of the sea for a radius of 360 yojanas. And that leaves all the dragons exposed. Perfect Garuda meals. What does that mean? There are dragons that live in the ocean. Okay. Shufu says they eat dragons in the same way we eat noodles, and dragons are pretty large. They are one of the largest varieties in the class of worms. It's interesting because Shufu sometimes call dragons worms. Shufu can do that. So Shufu says dragons possess spiritual penetrations. They're able to shrink and grow in size and can appear or disappear at will. Although they have these spiritual penetrations, they lose them and become immobilized upon seeing the golden-winged Garuda bird. They can only wait helplessly for the golden-winged Garuda bird to come and devour them. So despite their spiritual abilities, they still cannot escape from the Garuda bird. Shufu goes on to say, he says, birds all eat worms, Small birds eat small worms and big birds eat big worms. The Garuda prefers the tender young dragons, and besides the older dragons tend to be better at concealing themselves. Seeing all the young being devoured, the older dragons decided it was time to start a Save the Dragons movement, but they couldn't think of what to do. They thought Shakyamuni Buddha is greatly compassionate. Let's go ask him to help us. Okay. So what happened? So apparently, the details are the Dragon King went to the Buddha and he said the golden winged bird has been indiscriminately slaughtering our young for food. Our dragon race is about to become extinct. Please be compassionate and save us. So the Buddha said, here, give each of the dragons one thread from my rope and you will be okay. So that's the plan Shakyamuni Buddha laid out. So the next time the Garuda bird flapped the sea dry, according to Shifu, he said there were no dragons to be seen. The sea was dried up, but all the bird could see was little threads. And these threads were from the rope of the Buddha. So the Garuda had a bit of spiritual powers himself. He knew that the Buddha must have helped the dragons. He went to the Buddha and said, Shakyamuni Buddha, you are being very compassionate to the dragons, but you aren't being compassionate towards the great golden winged birds. If we don't eat dragons, we are going to starve. We eat a lot and only dragons are big enough to provide us with sufficient nourishment. You are not being impartial and fair about this. So the Buddha then used this opportunity to speak Dharma. Buddha said, in my Dharma, we liberate life and stop killing. Eating dragons is a form of killing. You kill dragons now and in your next life they will kill you. Things just get worse and worse. You should quit eating dragons. You should be vegetarians. Don't eat meat anymore. Okay, that's easy to say. All right. Then naturally the Garuda replied, this is probably the Garuda king, the king of the Garudas. He says, where am I going to get vegetables? Asked the bird. The Buddha said, after this, whenever my disciples eat lunch, they will make an offering of food to you, so you don't have to eat dragons anymore. And so the Garuda and the Buddha signed that agreement. Okay. Shifu said, the dragons could live without fear of being eaten, and the Garudas did not starve to death. Even up to the present, when we eat lunch, we send out some food for the Garudas. If you have opened the 5 eyes, when you send the food out, you'll see the great golden winged perm birds come and eat it. Wherever they go, when Buddhist disciples eat lunch, they should send out a portion to the Garudas. If you've ever been to a monastery, or if you ever had lunch with the monastics at DRBA, not just in the temple, but say outside, you will see us before lunch while we are doing the meal offering or the short meal offering, depending on what's more convenient. You'll see one of the monks or the nuns. They'll take a bit of the rice, usually about 7 grains of rice, and then they go outside and they do some hand gestures and they place the food outside. That's what we do. That's what this is. We are putting out food for the peng bird, and not just the peng bird. This is what we recite when we put out food for the living beings. I'm not going to recite it right now. You can read it for yourself. And then we recite a mantra, and we do we draw in the air over the food a character 3 times over the food, and we recite the mantra, and then we snap our fingers 3 times, and that constitutes the sharing of our food. And so this is a tradition that we have maintained since the Buddha's time until now. Yeah. So that's the origin of what we do. So I was looking for a reference. I was hoping that there might be a sutra that actually records Shufu's commentary, but I haven't been able to find one because maybe not all sutras have been translated to English. But what I did find was another sutra in the Pali Canon, and this is called the Maha Samaya Sutta. It's translated as the Great Meeting, and you will find this in the Digha Nikaya number 20. So this is a very interesting sutta where the Buddha was, I'm just showing you an excerpt of the sutra, but what happens is the Buddha was with 500 monks, all arhats, and the awesome, presence of the Buddha and his 500 arhat monks made all the beings from we read the Eightfold Pantheon of gods and spirits, they all came because they wanted to be by the Buddha and the presence of the Arhats. So the Sutra is about the Buddha explaining to the monks who are there and encouraging the monks to sense the presence of all these spiritual visitors. And then the Buddha starts outlining who is there. And it's supposed to be a who's who of everyone in the spiritual pantheon of Dharma protectors. Okay, so in this sutra, it makes a reference. It says, there have also come Nagas from Lake Nabasa, Vasali, and Tachaka, Kambalas, Asataras, Payagas, and their kin. Those are the names of the different dragon clans. It says, from the river Yamuna comes a prestigious Naga, Datarata, he's a dragon king, and the great Naga Erawana, another dragon king, he too has come to the forest meeting. So the Buddha explains to the bhikshus the dragon kings that come. Okay, and then in the next passage, the Buddha says, they who sweep down swiftly on Naga kings, divine, twice born, winged, their eyesight pure, Garudas come from the sky to the midst of the forest. So it says the Garudas have also come. Chitra and Supana are their names. But the Buddha made the Naga kings safe, made them secure from Supana or from the Supanas. Addressing one another with affectionate words, the Nagas and Supanas made the Buddha their refuge. So this is what I could find in the sutras. If anyone knows any more about this encounter where the Buddha helped save the dragons, please let me know. Okay. Saha has a question. Does this happen in our world, Garudas eating dragons? Well, we may not be able to see it, but we do provide food to the golden wing perm bird, to the Garuda bird every time we eat. So that much I know. Okay. And we, like how Shufu explained, this relationship between the Garudas and the dragons, you can see it in chickens attack snakes. Okay, chickens hate snakes. And then I know peacocks attack snakes as well, or anything that looks like a snake, even a rubber snake. So you can see this you can see a mirror of that happening within our reality. Okay, so now, remember I talked about the heart of the Garuda? Okay, let's go to the heart. This is Shufu, commentary on the Garuda's heart. Shufu says, although the golden winged Garuda bird is very powerful when alive, after death, its flesh and bones disintegrate and return to the four elements. So it has to undergo birth and death just like anyone else. It says its heart alone does not decay. So it's the heart, okay, does not decay. Even if burned by fire or drowned in water, it remains whole and intact. The heart is spherical, that means it's round, and emits a radiant light. Its wonderful functioning and spiritual penetrations are inconceivable. If a dragon king obtains this heart, it becomes dragon's pearl. Placed inside the dragon's palace, it begins to shine, and the entire dragon palace radiates brilliant light. Okay, so that's the wish-fulfilling pearl that Shufu is referring to. And one of the way it comes from, one of the way it comes to the person who wields it is the heart of a Garuda. Shufu says, if a wilderness king obtains this heart, it becomes his wish-fulfilling pearl, with which he can rescue all those who are trapped in disasters and difficulties. So a few weeks ago, we looked at a Mahaparusa, the great man, remember, and how they become wilderness kings. And one of his treasures is the wish-fulfilling pearl that comes to him. Well, this is it. This is what Shufu is referring to. Shufu says, with the wonderful functioning of such a wish-fulfilling pearl, the spiritual penetrations of the wheel-turning king are truly inconceivable. So through the pearl, they can help people or rescue people who are trapped in disasters and difficulties. Okay. So why am I sharing this? Because Shufu goes on to say, Shufu says, what about us? Don't we have any share of this pull? Shufu says we do. Because this part of Shufu's commentary is actually about the human heart. Okay, about ourselves. Not our physical heart. Okay. Our physical heart is just tissue, muscle, but something that's more important than that. So Shufu says we do. Okay, it says everyone possesses this invaluable pearl within his own nature, but we are so shrouded by ignorance that our wish-fulfilling pearl is smothered and cannot shine. No matter how hard we look for it, we cannot find it. We don't know how to use it either. What a pity. Shiva says people of this world renounce the root to chase after the branch tips. They turn their backs on enlightenment and merge with the dust. They neither wish to return to the source nor want to escape the dust and merge with enlightenment. So we have this amazing wish-fulfilling pearl in us, but what we do instead is we try to look for happiness outside of ourselves in things that are impermanent, things that are subject to decay, subject to change. But we try to look for everlasting happiness in those things. But it doesn't work, which is why our search for happiness, pleasure, contentment is never ending, because it doesn't last. It never lasts. You can't find ever something that lasts in something that doesn't last. Okay. So Shufu says, for this reason, sages and saints of every religion have taken great pains to teach people to make use of this transitory existence to discover the eternal truth. Their only wish for us is to leave confusion and go towards enlightenment. They hope we will return to the source and recognize our original nature, that is our inherent treasure, the wish-fulfilling pearl we all possess. Okay. Shufu also says, most of us, however, prefer to seek externally, not realizing that we really ought to seek within and reflect upon ourselves. In life after life, we drifted aimlessly in the sea of suffering, wanting to cultivate yet unwilling to renounce our dirty habits and sloppy ways. We don't seriously want to purify ourselves and cast off the dust of this world. What a pity. What does it mean when we say, Shiva says, purify ourselves? Purify ourselves means every time we have an unwholesome thought, we, instead of finding satisfaction, say in getting angry at someone, or lashing out at someone, or indulging ourselves in our desires of wanting things that we don't have, instead we recognize those thoughts for what they are, and we turn our focus and attention inside. So instead of looking for pleasure and happiness from outside, we look for, you can say you look for pleasure and happiness inside, and we allow our minds to rest and enter concentration to our respective Dharma doors that we practice. So that's what it means to purify ourselves and cast off the dust of this world. We start to look inside into what our minds, our narrative is telling us, rather than what the outside world is doing to us. Okay. So there is a verse or a song that is written by the great master Han Shan that Shufu references when he talks about us having the wish-fulfilling pearl. So the elder master Han Shan, or great master Han Shan, said, when the golden Garuda dies, its flesh and bones scatter and rot. Only its heart remains intact, round, lustrous, and dazzling bright. When the Dragon King takes it for his pearl, it can obliterate 1,000 years of darkness. When the wheel-turning king obtains it as a wish-fulfilling pearl, it can rescue all those in difficulty. How is it that we humans use it daily and yet cannot see it? So when he says, how is it that we humans use it daily, the only reason we can function as who we are right now is because of our wish-fulfilling pearl. It's because of our Buddha nature. That's the only reason we can see, we can smell, we can think. But because of ignorance and attachments, we don't realize what's actually going on. Yeah, so that's what it means. There is a story, let me see. what time is it? It's 9:37. Okay, so coming to the part about the Garudas being able to eat the young dragons and not so much of the older dragons, because the older dragons were wiser. We read that they knew how to hide themselves. There was a period, this is in one of the Jataka tales as told by the Buddha. So this was before the Buddha was around, when the Buddha was still a bodhisattva. I won't share the entire story, but just the interesting part about the story. What the dragons would do to avoid being eaten by the Garudas would be they would swallow heavy rocks. And why would they swallow heavy rocks is because when the Garuda came down to catch the dragons, they would always catch them by the head. And when they ate heavy rocks, they became too heavy even for the great Garuda bird to lift them up. So being unable to lift them up from the ground, they had no choice but to let go, and the dragons would be safe. So the story was about how Devadatta, which is the known as the Buddha's arch enemy, so to speak, although he's not an equal to the Buddha at all, he managed to trick the king of dragons to reveal this secret, and he revealed this secret to the king of Garuda, to the Garuda king. So when the Garuda king found this out, from then on the Garudas would, instead of seizing the dragons by the head, they would seize the dragons by the tail. So they would lift up the dragon by the tail, and the head would hang down, and this would make the rocks, fall out from the dragon, and then the dragon will become light, and then they will be able to the Garuda will be able to fly away with the dragon and eat the dragon. Yeah, so that's one of the Jataka stories. Okay, all right, now let's move to the arch enemy, or once was the arch enemy of the Garudas, which is the Nagas. Okay, what are Nagas? This is all Shufu's commentary. Most of it is from the Avatamsaka Sutra. Some of it are from Shufu's Dharma talks as well. Okay, so Shufu says dragons are magical beings endowed with spiritual powers. They can become large or small, appear or make themselves invisible at will. In short, their transformations are many. Dragons become dragons because they were quick with the vehicle and slow with the precepts. They vigorously cultivated the great vehicle and were very intelligent. They mastered the Dharma right away, as a result of which they obtained these spiritual powers. So that's how they have spiritual powers. But, Shufu says, they did not uphold the precepts, and as a consequence fell into the path of animals. All right. So dragons are noted for their anger and temper. So that's why they break the precepts. Okay, because they carry on. They were unable to purify their karmic habit of anger. They are also part of the Eightfold Division of Dharma protecting spirits. Also, compassionate dragon kings send down rain to benefit the myriad creatures of heaven and earth. They have spiritual powers and can transform themselves, but because they did not keep the precepts, they have fallen into the bodies of animals. Shufu reminds us that dragons are animals too. Okay. Then Shufu says there are different varieties of dragons, such as gold, white, blue, and black dragons. Some dragons are born from embryos. That means womb-born embryo. Some from eggs, some from moisture, and others by transformation. Shufu says there are also two-horned young dragons, eagle dragons, single-horned dragons, black dragons, celestial dragons, earthly dragons, imperial dragons, human dragons, fish transformed dragons, shrimp transformed dragons, horse transformed dragons, elephant transformed dragons, snake transformed dragons, toad transformed dragons, and so forth. So there are as many different kind of dragons as you could say like human beings, or if you look at the animal realm, within one species, Say like birds, there are so many varieties of birds, so it's the same for dragons. Okay. For anyone thinking that being a dragon is a great thing, well, Shufu says dragons are afflicted by 4 kinds of suffering. Number 1, they are gobbled up by the golden winged perm birds. We already know that. So Shufu explains how they are eaten by the birds. Number 2, in mating, their bodies have to undergo transformation. Shufu says when male and female dragons mate, they have to change from the dragon bodies into snake bodies. This transformation is extremely painful and is great suffering as well. So that's the second suffering of being a dragon. Number 3, they are constantly bitten by tiny worms that infest their scales. It says embedded within the scales of these dragons are millions of tiny worms that forever gnaw their skin. The dragons age terribly and undergo suffering. So in the body of a dragon, remember, you don't really have hands that you can scratch yourself. So Saha has a question, what's human dragons? Can you please explain? Shufu has stories. In fact, this commentary that I'm sharing now is from a story Shufu told, and in that story, there were 10 dragons that wanted to become Shufu's disciple. They took refuge with Shufu, and Shufu explained that at that moment they had transformed themselves into people that look like into people. They look just like people, so you couldn't tell the difference. I'm not sure if that's a human dragon or not. That's as much as I know when it comes to the word human and dragons put side by side. All right, Saha. If you want to know more, Shufu in this actual story that Shufu said, he said, if you really want to see dragons, quickly go and cultivate, and you'll find out for yourself. So I'll share. That's your answer. So, okay. So what's the number 4 suffering that nagas or dragons have to undergo? They are scorched by the hot sand, and this is a result of them having the worms. Shufu says because the itch is from the worms. Number 3 becomes unbearable. The dragons go to the seashore and rub themselves against the sand in hope of revealing the discomfort. But what happens is the sand grains end up becoming lodged in their scales, and when the hot sun dries up the sand, it scorches them like fire, and that this is great suffering as well. Yeah. So it's no fun being a dragon. Shufu continues, he says, the dragon's duty is to spread clouds and make the rain fall, but there are 5 situations under which they cannot make rain. Number 1, the fire element is in preponderance. That means there's too much the yin and yang of the world is imbalanced, so there's too much fire element. Or the wind blows the clouds asunder, or asuras condense the clouds into the sea, the mischievous asuras. Or the rainmakers are remiss. I don't know what that means. The rainmakers are remiss, or maybe it's the dragons neglecting their duty. I'm not sure. Or living beings' offenses are heavy. What does living beings' offenses are heavy? Shufu explains it, maybe not taken literally, but this is how Shufu explains it. It says droughts are the results of living beings' heavy karma. The stench that people release fills the skies and drives the rain dragons away, preventing them from carrying out their duties. Okay, so dragons also cultivate. Okay, there's an encounter in the Sutra where a monk asked the Buddha, he says, Venerable Sir, meaning the Buddha, he says, what is the cause and reason why some egg-born nagas here observe the Uposatha and relinquish concern for their bodies? What is the Uposatha? Uposatha refers to the 8 precepts. You don't have to, in this case, it's not so much the 8 precepts in a literal sense, but what do the 8 precepts signify? The 8 precepts signify any non-monastic living like a monastic for a short period of time. That's the best way to understand what the Uposatha means. Okay, it involves the 8 precepts, That's for sure, because you need the 8 precepts to form the foundation of a monastic lifestyle. But it makes more sense to look at the word uposatha in that definition as non-monastics wishing to live or cultivate like how a monastic cultivates for a short period of time. So apparently dragons do cultivate as well. So the question is why? Why would dragons want to cultivate? Okay, and the Buddha answers, it says, it's because they think that the dragons have this thought. It says, in the past, we acted ambivalently in body, speech, and mind. Having done so with the breakup of the body after death, we were reborn in a company of 8 born Nagas. And we already know from Shufu's commentary that being born as a dragon, there's suffering. Okay, so the Nagas think if today we practice good conduct of body, speech, and mind, then with the breakup of the body, after death, we shall be reborn in a happy destination in a heavenly bowl. Come now, let us practice good conduct of body, speech, and mind. Okay. All right, Saha, we come to your question about dragons. Okay. So Shufu, the title of this talk by Shufu is Open the 5 Eyes and See the Real Dragons. Shufu is saying, do you want to know? Well, hurry up and work hard. Concentrate in meditation. Cut down your false thoughts and don't become angry. What do dragons look like? It says ordinary people don't know. Only sages who have opened the 5 eyes know what dragons really look like. The dragons depicted by Chinese artists have horns, scales, prominent eyes, that means like bulging eyes, a large mouth, whiskers, 4 feet, a long body, and a short tail. You know what? Let me go quickly look online for it. Chinese dragon. Okay. Images. And let me share this. Let me drag it to share the screen. Okay. So that's what a Chinese dragon looks like. So this is what Shufu refers to when he says horns, scales, prominent eyes, a large mouth, whiskers, 4 feet. Let me see what else. 4 feet. Okay, 4 feet, a long body and a short tail. Okay, exactly what you see on your screen right now. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to stop sharing this. So it says, Shufu says, the artist paint only the dragon's head and not his tail. It's a saying, he says, the saying you can see only a divine's dragon head, not his tail, refers to the sense of mystery here. Okay, because we don't know what a dragon looks like. We only have like the images that we shared based on people's description. Shufu says, why did the Chinese paint dragons that way? Because there was a dhyana master who saw a dragon in a samadhi that looked like that. So Shufu continues, says, dragon has spiritual penetrations, their transformations are inconceivable, they can become big or small, visible or invincible, and the sixth Petrarch used his bowl to subdue a giant dragon that had been a menace to Nanhua monastery. So there's a lot of stories. Let me see, what's the time? 9:50. If I have time, after answering Ron's question, I'll share a story, one of the most epic stories that we have in the sutras concerning dragons. But there are a lot of stories about how like the sixth Petrarch monks would have encounters with dragons, poisonous dragons, not just any dragon, but there are class of dragons with poisonous breath. Very similar to how in English legend there are dragons with fire, they can breathe fire. And also, like when we talk about Garudas, they are phoenix or giant birds. Yeah. So yes, there are a lot of stories where monks with spiritual penetrations actually, like fight with the dragons. But I think it's always because out of compassion, because that's how they become eminent monks in the first place. And then they subdue the dragon and they use the Dharma to convert the dragon. Yeah. Okay, let's see. I have some more slides here. Let's see. Okay, so Before going to Ron's question, the story about Shufu accepting the 10 dragons as his disciples. Shufu says that this happened in Manchuria before he came to the West, before he came to America. And at this time, the conditions, these were the conditions. It says he had a disciple named Goshun. And this disciple, Shufu praised him a lot, Goshun. Shufu said in less than half a year, Goshun could enter Samadhi. And when he was in Samadhi, he learned the principle of cause and effect, and his skill in cultivation was quite good. So Goshun, he said, later built a hut as his place of cultivation. And when the hut was ready, he invited Shufu to come to perform the opening ceremonies, and Shufu brought along 4 disciples. Shufu also said in a separate story that later Goshun, he, after attaining a certain level in his practice, he left the world, and he set his body on fire, and he left the world in that way. Yeah. So he was not an ordinary disciple of Shufu. Okay, so when Shufu came to do the opening ceremony for Goshun's hut, one of Shufu brought along some disciples. He said he brought along 4 disciples. 2 of them had opened the 5 eyes. This was all in Manchuria. So, Shufu, let me see. Shufu said he did not notice there was a dragon temple next to the hut. So the place that Goshun had decided to build his hut, there was a dragon temple next to it. I think probably maybe an invincible dragon temple. So one of Shufu's disciples had opened the 5 eyes, told Shufu, he said, there are 10 dragons outside the hut and they want to take refuge with you. So Shufu scolded the disciple and said, don't talk nonsense. He says, how do you know they are dragons? And what do they want to take refuge with me for? How could I be their master? I don't have any great abilities like they do. Then the disciple said, they themselves said they were dragons. They are kneeling outside now, insisting on taking refuge. So apparently it's not easy being Shufu's disciple. Once you commit to walking the path, Shufu would be very serious with you. So Shufu said this happened in early summer, and there hadn't been any rain, and the young green shoots in the field were almost withered. So Shufu said he told the dragons who had assumed a human form, he said, you can take refuge with me on one condition. You are dragons and you are in charge of rainfall. Now there hasn't been any rain in the vicinity of Harbin. It is very dry, and if it rains tomorrow, I'll transmit the 3 refuges to you the day after. However, if there's no rain, I won't take you as my disciples. So Shufu wants them to work, test their sincerity, I think. So Shufu says the dragons replied in unison. It says, our duty is to make the rain fall, but we don't dare make rain without orders from the Jade Emperor. Otherwise, we will be punished. Who's the Jade Emperor? In the Hokkien language, we call Tikong. In the sutras, the Jade Emperor is known as Lord Chakra. Lord Chakra is the king of the heaven of the 33. And in a future class, when we come to that stage, we will look more into Lord Chakra. So the dragon say it's not up to them. They have to get orders from Lord Chakra or the Jade Emperor. So Shufu says, you go before the Jade Emperor and tell him there is a monk in Harbin asking for rain within a radius of 40 li, is about 13 miles from Harbin. Those are my terms. So Shufu said, on the second day it rained and the drought was over. So sweet dew fell within the area of 40 li around Harbin. And on the third day, I transmitted the 3 refuges to the 10 dragons and gave them a collective Dharma name. Quickly cultivate. That became their Dharma name. They shared the one Dharma name. Shiva said after the refuge ceremony, they disappeared, meaning the dragons, and went back to teach and transform their own kind. From then on, wherever I went, I could get water. When I was in Hong Kong, Hong Kong had water. I came to the city of 10,000 Buddhas and the city has water. This is not a miracle. It happens because the 10 dragons and their families have all come to protect the Dharma. So this is a true story. If you read the Shufu's biography, when Shufu went to Hong Kong, which is after this incident, Shufu built a monastery with his two hands. Okay, Shufu carried the building materials up a hill. He built a monastery, and Shufu sculpted a dragon as well. I've seen a photo of that because I haven't been to that temple myself. And although the temple is on a hill or a mount, I think it's a hill, not quite a mountain, but very high up. There is a spring, and which supplies water to the temple. That was when Shufu was there. And one of the stories I heard about the city of 10,000 Buddhas is that we managed to buy the city because the city had problems with water. That's what the California state officials thought at that time. So we bought the city at a good price because they thought that there wasn't any water resources there. And then we hired some people to come and dig a well. Shufu told them exactly where to dig. And when they dug there, they were surprised because they didn't expect to find any water there. And one of the monks in charge of the water supply at CTTB says that it's not inexhaustible, but there is a lot of water under CTTB that we have used until today. Yeah. So Shufu says someone asked Shufu, says, Master, what did the 10 dragons look like? Shufu says, the dragons that took refuge with me had changed themselves into human form. They looked no different from ordinary people. People who have opened the 5 eyes would know they were dragons. So this is for you, Saha. Shufu says, do you want to know? Then hurry up and work hard. Concentrate in meditation. Cut down your false thoughts. Don't become angry. Be patient with both good and bad states. And don't be greedy. When you reach the state where not one thought arises and the mind is totally pristine, you will naturally open the 5 eyes. Then you can clearly see what dragons look like. So in other words, just like the Garuda's heart is a wish-fulfilling pearl, we all have the wish-fulfilling pearl that if you have the wish to see what dragons look like, you can, okay? You just have to look inside, look inwards, and look for it. Okay. Ron says, are there any dragons about CDTB? Because California could use a lot of rain. Yes, California could definitely use rain, and not just rain, but rain in a timely fashion that does not cause disasters. As to whether there are any dragons about CDTB, I do not know. But I do know Shufu explaining, actually there is a story, maybe I'll tell that next week. It's a story about a snake that visited CDTB when Shufu was there. And that's the closest thing I know from Shufu about dragons at CDTB. Okay, other than that, I have no, I won't be surprised if they are given CDTB that there are lots of Dharma protecting spirits. But as to whether any dragons or not, I'm not sure. Okay, so 2 weeks ago at our last class, Ron had a question about transference. Ron, do you want to ask the question? Are you ready?
I already wrote it out so that everybody can read for themselves. Basically, when you sing the merit to transfer the merit at the end of the class, that goes to everybody, right? That merit. So I want, first of all, I guess this question is in 2 parts. The first is, when you sing the merit, the transfer of merit at the end of the class, are you transferring that merit to everybody? I mean, everybody outside of the class. So that's what I'm saying. And the second is, if we take that merit for attending class like this, could we in turn transfer that merit after you have transferred it? Do we transfer it to a cause that we feel that, you know, is important, or to someone that we want to transfer it to? So that's the two parts of the question.
Okay, great question, Ron. Within your question is the answer. That's exactly how transference works. It's been, the metaphor of light has been used to explain transference of merit, because people usually have this question. It says, if I transfer merit, am I giving my merit away, and am I getting less merit for myself? It's a very, how you say, it's a very logical question. Okay, so when it comes to merit, merit is something that's intangible. It has no form. So one of the best metaphors that I've heard that is used to explain transference of merit is the flame of a candle. So imagine you have a candle, and your candle is lit, and that the light from the candle, the flame, represents the merit that you have. Okay, and then you have this room full of people who have candles, but their candle is not lit. So transference to one person means you go light the you light that person's candle. And after you light that candle, although you have shared your flame with him, your flame has not diminished in any way at all. In fact, the room is now twice as bright because you have shared your merit. Okay. If you can, in your heart, transfer the merit to more people, that means you can light more candles. And that way, the room becomes brighter and brighter. And at the same time, your flame has not diminished in any way. So that's one way to understand transference of merit. Okay? All right. The second part to your question, or the first part to your question, is that transference of merit is a very, very personal thing. Of course, when we look at the words for transference, because it is a, how you say, it is an official representation of transference, we transfer to all living beings, because that's the Mahayana heart. But although that's what the words say, you have to ask yourself, is your heart actually capable of transferring to all living beings? In other words, is your consideration for all living beings the same? You know, for example, say, take the person. Okay, look at transference this way. I've used this example before. Transference should come as a very natural, spontaneous thing out of the goodness of your heart. It's not something that you kind of deliberate and think about, like, whoa, who am I going to transfer to? Okay, I want to transfer to that person. You can do that, but that's not the spirit of transference is very different. I'll share my example, my own encounter with you. There was once, I remember, someone took me to a restaurant, and it was a very quaint restaurant. It's in the middle of the city, but it's like someone's house. It was actually someone's house, and it wasn't just a house. It was a very village kind of house, and was very, very rustic. And they serve cuisine from my clan. I'm as a Chinese, I belong to the Fujian or Hokkien clan, and so they serve the ancient cuisine of the Hokkien clan, which was very interesting to me and was also very tasty as well. So when I was introduced to this restaurant and the dishes which I've never had in my life, and it was explained to me, oh, these are your ancestors' dishes. The first thing that came to my mind spontaneously was, oh, I have to bring my parents here. You know, I have to. This is a place where I definitely have to bring my parents, because I think they would enjoy this a lot. You know, just the whole thing, the whole rusticness of the restaurant, the fact that the food, I grew up in the city, but I've never found anywhere else that had this kind of food. You know, it was so special to me. And the next thought that I have was, oh, if my relatives come on, to bring them to this restaurant. And then if I have any friends, I also want to introduce them to this restaurant. Think of transference in that way. It's a very spontaneous, not calculated movement of the heart, where you encounter something that you treasure. So when it comes to the Dharma, it's something related to the Dharma. Of course, my example is food, because last time, food meant a lot to me. So, within the Dharma is when you encounter, say, a teaching of the Dharma that really helps you out, or there's something that you benefit, and you think that someone else could benefit, so that we can bring more peace in this world, less affliction, more people can walk the path and become Buddhas themselves. Those kind of things. That's where the transference comes in. You want to share, you have the wish that they could benefit the same as you have. So naturally, to understand this, you look at the people who are closest to you in your heart. People who say if you win the lottery, they will be first on your list, that you would share the money with them. Putting it in another way, okay? Because for these people, your goodness comes out naturally, okay? You naturally feel. No one has to suggest to you, hey, you should help these people. You yourself know you want to help. Okay, so transference, when it comes to this group of people, comes very naturally, and that's how transference feels like. That's how transference should feel like. And then when you come to the verses that we use for transferring, it talks about like the entire Dharma realm. You slowly learning from how you naturally make transference to the group of people that you care for. The more you can transfer the same feelings for more and more people, then the more and more you are encompassing the Dharma realm. It's not the words. The words are just there to remind you of what you should be doing internally. So you could be saying, you could be reciting the words, I transfer to all the great Naga kings and their retinue. I transfer to all the great Garuda kings and their retinue. I transfer to all animals. But it's just words, because your heart is not ready to actually do that at all. You understand, Ron? So you have to train yourself through the words first. So where do you start? You start with the people that you really care for. Who are the ones that, like I said, my example would be like the food example, or like when you win the lottery, who are the people that come to your mind that you could benefit? Something like that gives you an idea of the people who you could care for. These are the people that should be in your transference all the time. And then now, for example, like the war in Ukraine, and the people there are really suffering, and you have a wish that the people there are free from afflictions. You may not be able to imagine all of that in your heart, but what would happen is that if you can do it well enough, whenever you meet someone who undergoes suffering, you naturally extend the same heart to them. So when we do transference, whether we can actually do transference or not is another thing for another time. But at least in our case, if we activate our compassion in the right way, then when you meet a stranger who you have never met before, but you recognize them as undergoing affliction or suffering, because you have done transference before, you know how to extend the same graciousness in your heart to the people you care for, to this complete stranger. So that's one of the benefits of transference. Is that clear? Anyone have any more questions?
Well, sure. Just a trail on question, side question. Is transference is kind of like also a part of giving also? Is there like part of paramitas of giving? Is that part of that?
Yes. So you start off with the wish to give, which is transference. Okay, and like I said, if you do it well enough, that wish actually translates into actual speech, form, or action when you have the opportunity to do so. So from your wish to transfer, it leads to a transformation of your behavior. That's the practice of transference. So the more transference you do, and I'm not just saying like just reading the words, as in you feel it in yourself, the transformation that you undergo, you will be able to see it in your day-to-day behavior. So bodhisattvas, everything that they do, every goodness they come across, they transfer. And every affliction they come across, they also transfer, but what they transfer is the opposite. So for example, if they're sick, then they say that, oh, I wish all beings could be free of sickness. That's also transference. All right. Okay, it's time. It's 10:15. The story about how during the Buddha's time, one of the Buddha's monks subdued a great poisonous dragon. I will share that next week. All right. For now, let me get my bell and we can do transference. And look at your heart when we're doing the transference. Okay. Are you just, where's my slide? Are you just using your mouth to just recite transference, the dedication of merit, and that's it? Or do you have someone dear in mind that you really wish the Dharma could benefit? Okay, let me grab my bell. Okay. I'm going to invite everyone to join me in putting our palms together, and just let me change my sound setting so you can hear the bell. All right. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, 3 bows to the Buddha. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Alright, so we will see you next week. Okay, Amitabha.
感恩法师。